Hey Bayek, it's me Ian, and in today's video we're going to look at this. This is Craze from 1974, and this is a film that Tony sent to me, and it's another great film. Absolutely, so impressed with this film, and thanks again, Tony. This is just it's a real great film, I'll tell you. Yes. Uh, well, it's a horror film with exploitation, definitely exploitation, slasher elements. It's all in there, all totally enjoyable. It's 96 minutes long. There's no rating on Rotten Tomatoes with the critics, so there we are. It's based on a novel, The Infernal Idol by Henry Seymour, and it was written by Herman Cohen and Abel Candel. Now, Herman Cohen, of course, was the producer, and he's got a certain reputation for the kind of films that he were making, and this certainly in this phase is very much the kind of film that he was wanting to make. This sort of exploitation film. You know exactly where you are when you see it. There's lots of sleazy sexual scenes and blood and gore and all the other stuff, you know. He was a producer, actually, going way back to, he was producer of I Was a Teenage Werewolf, 1957, and then a follow-up, A Teenage Frankenstein, 1957, so these I Was films, he got into that. He was also in Horrors of the Black Museum, 1959, which is a really good film. And of course, Trog, yes, 1970, Joan Crawford's last film, which is very much a cult classic in itself. He was involved in that as a producer. And it was, in fact, his last film. But there's a connection. Now, the director of this film is Freddie Francis. Freddie Francis directed Trog. But Freddie Francis is known to us. Certainly. He was involved in directing the very highly thought of Hammer film Paranoia, 1963. That's Oliver Reed and that. Then the Evil of Frankenstein, 1964. He was involved in that. Was director. Then some other things that are noticeable. He was in Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, 1965, as the director. Yes, he was the director of that, which is the first Amicus film. Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee in that. And he was also in another one, Tales from the Crypt, 1976. It's well known he wasn't keen on this film at all, Craze. I think he was getting fed up and tired and all that, and so he wasn't always very kind about this. But, you know, I think it looks good. It's well directed, you know. Some wonderful things in it. Let's get into the cast. This film is about the cast as well. It's headed by Jack Palance. Jack Palance, well, what can you say about him? He's an Hollywood legend. He plays Neil Mottram, the central character to all this, all the craziness, if you want to put it like that. He was in Shane. That is a classic Western from Hollywood, 1953. He was in Barbarossa, 1961, which is a really good epic film. He was, of course, involved in Amicus's Torture Garden, which was another of their anthology films. And then lots of roles, but one that stood out for me, which I found interesting, a later role, Batman 1989. I mean, all these are in his latter part of his career. Yeah, fascinating. And he's a presence. He makes this film in many ways his own. It's rumoured that some of them were a bit afraid of him as an actor on the set. His presence was a major, definitely. Then, Diana Dawes. She's in this. She plays Dolly. Diana Dawes. She was our answer to Marilyn Monroe, the pin-up. And she was in some great films. And she carried on right through her career as well. Made some great films. Notable from our viewpoint in sort of cult favourites, Theatre of Blood. She was in Theatre of Blood, the Vincent Price, 1973. She was, of course, also in Steptoe and Son Ride Again, 1975. Wow, yes, you can't beat Steptoe and Son. Loved Steptoe and Son. And now this is important. She was in an episode in the Hammer House of Horror series from 1980. It was the werewolf one, Children of the Full Moon. Wow, that is such a great episode. So fantastic. Then we got Julie Edge. Yes, Julie Edge. She plays Elena or Helena. Now she's got a massive, wonderful CV of all sorts of things. Notable for me, she's in Bond film. She's in Majesty's Secret Service, 1969. She's in Hammer film, Creatures of the World Forgot, 1971. And Legends of the Seven Golden Vampires from 1974, which I think is a fantastic film. Peter Cushing, Kung Fu versus not werewolves, vampires and Kung Fu. Hey, you can't argue with that, can you? Then another actor, it's only a very small appearance, but it's outstanding, is Hugh Griffith. He plays the solicitor, and it's such a funny turn. And he almost steals it. It's so funny, Hugh Griffith. He was notable for Ben-Hur. He was in that, 1959. He was in Oliver, 1968. And both Vincent Price, Dr. Phibes films from 71 and 1972. Then we've got Trevor Howard. Yeah, the legendary Trevor Howard, another great British actor playing Bellamy. He was in Brief Encounter, of course, 1945. That is a classic film. Mutiny on the Bounty, where he played Captain Bligh from 1962. Remember Marlon Brando in that. Then he was in Von Ryan's Express, 1965. Battle of Britain, 1969. And then the Sean Connery film as well, The Offence, which is a very important film. That was from 1972. And then, just to throw this in, he was in Superman, 1978. I didn't know he was in that. Then we've got Susie Kendall playing Sally. She was in an Argento film, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage from 1970. She was in Assault, which we've reviewed here, another great film. She was in that. She was also in, which film I talk about, Fear is the Key from 1972. She was in that. Then we've got Michael Jason playing the detective who's chasing and after this, and also he's a bit rough as well in this, as you'll see, way he treats, it's like the Gene Hunt from Life on Mars. He doesn't pull any punches, literally. He of course, was famous as Nicholas and Alexandra. Major film that was. And of course, from our viewpoint, he was also in Tales That Witness Madness, an anthology horror film from 1973. He was in Doctor Who, of course, the Sixth Doctor story, the 23rd season, the very last, and quite controversial in some ways. He played the Valiant, which is a great Doctor Who villain. He was in the Trial of the Time Lord. What great great story that was. Then we've got another interesting character who pops up. Is Percy Herbert. He plays another detective, Detective Rosette. He was in Quatermass 2, 1957, Hammer. And then we got the Carry On films. He was in Carry On Jack, 1963, Carry On Clear, 1964, and Carry On Cowboy, 1965. Wow, we've got it all here, haven't we? We've got it all. It's such a great film. The locations, Elstree Studio, fantastic. I just love it. You can't beat this. The way it looks. It's just an amazing film, and the direction. It's almost like I don't know. It really feels such. It's so enjoyable. I say that's what I'm looking for. What is the story about? You're saying, what is the story about? Well, this demented, that's a word to describe it, mad almost, character played by Jack Palance, Neil Mottram. Neil Mottram is the central character. Well, he just happens, he's an antique dealer. He has a shop. And he happens to worship, like, you do, this African god, called Chuku. Chuku, yes. Chuku, that's it. It's not the bargain on expert, no. Sorry, I just slipped that one in. You're wondering about bargain on. Now, he says, now, basically, he believes that if he does rewards, the rewards he will get from offering sacrifices in this, it's like a series of worshippers, then they'll get rewarded. And by doing that, he has to keep killing various women. And that's how it is. The blood sacrifice, he gets rewarded. He finds some gold coins in one of the pieces of furniture, a desk table thing, and he's overwhelmed, which proves that it's all true, and then he goes on his spree of killing. He has a very, it's very interesting, because he also has another character with who he's got the younger man. There's this sort of younger man kind of relationship that he's got, and it's almost like suggesting that there's a gay kind of relationship there, which is interesting in itself for the turn, but there's that undertones there. And apparently he was notorious, the producer in his films, to have this, like, the older man and the younger one, which is just an interesting take on it. But the story evolves, and these two detectives are on the case, especially led by the Michael Jason character, Wall. He leads them totally he wants to get him. And as the bodies pop up, he's linking it all to him, and he needs his proof and identity. As on the way, we meet down her doors. Her performance is just amazing. The whole film is just great. It's mad. In many ways, it's completely mad. But there's also a lot of good, intricate bits as well, like, setting up the killings, particularly when he does one. He's his auntie, who he basically kills so he can inherit lots of money, because it's a sacrifice as well, and all that is done in a quite an interesting way. The way he uses Diana doors, and it's quite interesting. It's quite good. But I said, loving watching it all. The whole thing is just fantastic, and highly recommended. Really is highly recommended, this film. You'll have a ball watching it. You will. Yeah, it's just exploitation, sexploitation, horror at its best. The most fun you can have. It really is. I love it. And all these wonderful actors, even though they're only small roles, they're all involved in it. And it's amazing. It is. So, now, Nucleus Films have released this in 2016. I don't think there's a Blu-ray release, but it's on DVD. And if there is a Blu-ray release, it must have gone out of print. But there's this one, I say that Tony kindly sent me, and there's a really good documentary. Excellent documentary. Also, the restoration of this film is fantastic, and the quality. I've seen Blu-rays not as good quality as this. Really, it's amazing. There it is. Great illustration on there. The disc artwork. Fantastic. This is highly recommended if you want some fun. If you love this kind of film. Fantastic. I would get it. Yeah. Without a doubt. And that's it. That's all finished. Yes. So, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And we'll let you know when I do these videos. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe now, yes. And also, if you like it, give it a like. It helps with all the algorithms and all that kind of stuff. And it all costs note. And also, if you've got any comments, please put your comments down and I'll try and answer your comments. I'll just, I'd love to hear what you think. Yes, I do. I'll read, I should say, not hear. But you never know. And that's it, really. Just a big thank you again to Tony, and I'll see thee again.